We're live here. Okay, we're connecting there. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition on WKDW 97.5 FM Real Community Radio here in Southwest Florida. And not so sunny and really cold. Is that correct, Angie and Peter? It's cold today. In fact, I'm leaving for Minnesota tomorrow, and I was told by my son it snowed up there, so not as cold. But anyhow, I am so excited to have both of you on today to discuss the hurricane response that Peter Soderberg and his beautiful wife Elsa have put together through their foundation for matching money with the United Way of Charlotte County. And I'm going to take myself down off screen so Angie and Peter can have a little discussion and talk about how this has all come to be. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Marie.
Thank you, Maria. Marie.
Okay, and here we are, Peter.
Okay.
She's going to get the screen set up. And
there we go. Okay, almost. Sorry about that, guy.
That's okay.
Glitches, yeah.
Moving images. Yeah. So, Peter, here we are today. I'm gonna kind of set you up on a visual here. Over the summer, when our staff were having all of our retreats and planning, we really embraced the Friends theme. So, are you a Friends theme? I mean, did you watch Friends?
Yes. When I could get control of the TV. That seems like a long time ago, doesn't it?
It does. And we have had more fun talking about Friends. But so we, at our board retreat, we had Friends backdrop and really kind of talked about the whole couch Friends conversation thing. So just imagine we're friends today, we're having a conversation, and it would help me to kind of set the stage that way too. So
which friend would you like me to be?
Well, okay, let's see. Oh, maybe Chandler.
No, let's not go there.
No, so we're going to share today. We're going to talk a little bit about this community that we both care about. And as the hurricane has, just blasted all of us, we're going to just talk about what has been the impact, certainly for you and your wife, in terms of how do you want to respond to help the community. And then obviously we'll talk a little bit about how that intersects with United Way of Charlotte County, a little bit of stories around some of the things that we're hearing. Certainly want to make sure and recognize and thank all of the different partners in this community that are making the recovery possible. So we'll get to all that. But first of all, how is partnering with the Elsa and Peter Soderberg Charitable Foundation to help Charlotte County? How are you partnering with the United Way of Charlotte County? Just so we can kind of land there first.
Well, when this terrible storm hit us, we were up in upstate New York, and we were principally relying on the NOAA maps to see the course of this hurricane. And for a while, it looked like our house, our 1927 house on the beach of Boca Grande, was ground zero. It looked like we were going to be clobbered. And then we saw the storm about 45 minutes out take a right angle and head east. So this is not our first hurricane, and we realize that the direction of the wind affects outcomes in a great way. So we in Boca Grande got a onshore wind, so it came at us from the east instead of the west. Unfortunately, in Sanibel and Captiva, which are just to our south, they got a offshore wind, so they got the big swells, and obviously the rest is history. But interestingly, this storm went so slowly, the eye wall I think we were in the eye wall for quite some. We were in the eye, but the eye wall was just to our north, and I would say the devastation that I've seen just off island is greater than the devastation on island. And we we have we have long been very interested in Charlotte County because we realize that the people of Charlotte County, support a lot of the existence we lead on this wonderful island. And we, as Elsa and I, have been co-chairs of the mission committee at the Boca Grande United Methodist Church, and we have 15 missions we support. 6 of them are in Charlotte County. So we've gotten to know the not-for-profits and some of the not-for-profits in Charlotte County. And we felt that we needed to do something significant. And we also felt that in Boca Grande, which, by the way, is half in Charlotte County and half in Lee County, but Boca Grande has a pretty wealthy, for the most part, pretty wealthy population base. And indeed, now there are 2 funds set up on island here to help businesses on island and people who work on island. They probably live elsewhere, but when it comes to Charlotte County, that's a whole different ballgame. And we knew that the donor base in Charlotte County can't begin to compare with Sarasota and other places. So we right away said we want to focus on Charlotte County, and we began to call around some of the agencies that would be a partner for us in trying to distribute the funds. We didn't want to put ourselves between the needy recipients and the money. We wanted to get our money in the hands of an agency that we could trust to distribute the money wisely and could work with the not-for-profit community. So we called around and talked to a number of different groups, including you, Angie, at the United Way. And you were recommended to us by my colleagues at Gulf Coast Community Foundation, where I serve on the board. Gulf Coast Community Foundation is principally focused in Sarasota, and obviously Venice is where they started, and they also serve the 3 or 4 counties around them, but they have a client base that's heavily Sarasota oriented, and they know the not-for-profits working in the area, and then they know the kind of aggregators like the United Way, and that's why, for what we wanted to do, they sent us to you. And immediately when I talked to you, a light bulb went on, because my knowledge of the United Way comes from my half the career I spent with Johnson & Johnson. And when you were a young buck at Johnson & Johnson, if you were going to go anywhere, you had to become a United Way precinct captain. So I was smiling and dialing with the small businesses in Middlesex County, New Jersey. And I realized that, gee, what an interesting angle to see if we could enlist businesses to help us help their employees. So the heart of what you and we have put together is a combination funds from us and from local businesses, large or small, who operate out of Charlotte County, with the intent being that money will go to help people who are employed by those businesses and who are in need of disaster relief. wherever those people live. They could live in Northport. They could live south in Lee County, uh, or many of them will live in Charlotte County. So
Mm-hmm.
the goal was to help employers help their employees.
Mm-hmm.
And success looks like we play a small role in getting businesses back on their feet in Charlotte County and building momentum towards some degree of normalcy in our existence, getting businesses open, getting the people who hadn't been able to come to work, uh, getting them some uh, some small light at the end of the tunnel in the way of assistance. And so we thought a combination with the United Way might work very well.
Well,
And my career is
mm-hmm.
business, and so I think I know how to talk to businesses. And your career is in helping individuals, and we note that your season of giving infrastructure looked perfect for us to leverage. So
Mm-hmm.
we just thought it would be a great partnership to join up with you guys.
And I have thoroughly enjoyed having conversations with you, and just have appreciated so much you reaching out, and you truly listened to the intersection between your aspirations and really our mission and our focus, and where we were as an organization and how we saw ourselves supporting the community. So that's been a really wonderful part of the journey since you've reached out to us. And a little bit of background for where the United Way was prior to the storm. Over the summer, we were completing some strategic planning with our staff, the community, as well as our board. And August 31st, we had our board retreat, and we had really pivoted to this United at Work concept. And where many years, as you mentioned, the United Way campaigns have been about asking businesses to support the United Way, and then therefore investing in the community. What we also know about Charlotte County is there's a tremendous number of employees that are working every day, struggling with no savings. They're just barely on the edge. And so we had said that this next phase for us was really focusing on supporting the employers with their employees that were struggling. This was before the storm hit. And so we were already ready with our United at Work message. The board had approved it. We had the logo ready. And then all of a sudden the storm hits. And so what's really important, and I definitely, for you to call and say, how can we help? And then the relationship that we've had with the Gulf Coast Community Foundation for the last several years, kudos to them. They've invested in our capacity so that we can be a strong organization. And when things like this happen, making sure that we have what we need in place in terms of an organization that's sound, that can respond to these types of things, but also really staying within where we know our sweet spot is to respond to a disaster. So those kinds of investments over the last several years have really been very helpful. That has also allowed us to be good at what we do with Season of Sharing. And so that is another foundation, a group of foundations that have been investing in this community. I want to make sure there's just some background there in terms of the importance of that kind of investment into organizations locally. And so for 20 years, the United Way has managed the Season of Sharing grant for the Community Foundation of Sarasota County, also matched by the Patterson Foundation. And as the fiscal agent in Charlotte County, our job is to make sure that we're stewards of money to help people with rent, mortgage, and utilities, folks who are in the middle of a crisis, who've gotten behind. And so the structure that we have in place as the fiscal agent has allowed us to respond and be very efficient with those funds so that we can get out and help people so they can stay in their homes. And so that also kind of marries with the desire to help employees. Similar concept, similar structure. And so when we had that conversation, we were talking a little bit about what we already had in place, what were our aspirations with our mission to respond. That's where we realized that there was a combo there in terms of being able to work together. We also know that communication and navigation right now, again, prior to the storm, is really important. We've got isolated seniors, families that are really struggling to get resources. And so our board had also said being able to really manage and help navigate for the community resources. So again, you've got a storm that comes up. Our United Way wants to be positioned to help with those things. So you take United at Work and you take employees who have been affected by the storms. And I think it's important to share a couple of stories or a summary of stories with some of the things we're hearing, because that will kind of get to the heart of, again, why you're doing what you're doing. Maybe then we can talk a little bit about the logistics of the fund and what we hope to achieve. Right now, today, we have about 43 Publix associates that we're working with and working on to try to get them to a place of some kind of stability as our relationship with. That's an example of how that kind of thing works when you have a relationship with an employer and then their employees are in crisis. And so Publix is one of our largest supporters. As that relationship happens with the corporate office, they give us thousands and thousands of dollars. The associates, the ones that are bagging the groceries and cutting the deli meat, they give to Charlotte County thousands and thousands of dollars every year. And so we know during COVID, they stayed open. They kept working. And then they just kept going. And then now the storm hits and several stores have been just their employees or associates devastated. So right now we have about 43 that we're working with. A few days after the storm, one of the Publix managers had lost everything, needed clothes and shoes to go to work. He was still ready to go to work and he needed clothes and shoes. Like, this is what we're doing here. And so when we walk into those Publix stores, these folks are still working. And so for me, that's the heart of what you've said you want to do, because it's not just Publix associates. We're talking about sheriff's deputies who have lost everything, and they've been on the front lines. One of our staff, her husband works with the deputy's office. She happens to be pregnant. She was, by herself during the storm. She's now delivering her baby today. So we wish Anna luck today, but they had storm damage and her husband is still doing his thing. And so then you take the nonprofits. So we have nonprofits who, the Boys and Girls Club, for example, they had devastation with their building over in Inglewood. They have employees that are still working, lost everything. And so you can just go down the line. I can pause there because you probably have some visceral reaction to that, Peter, and I can see Marie's there too.
Yeah, and I saw the emotion that was coming over you, Angie, because it's personal. It becomes personal. There's a face with all of these people, and you've dealt with them all these years, and every one of us has shopped at Publix. There are friends, there are neighbors around us. Everybody has been touched in some way by this hurricane. And we were a small business owner. We're retired now, but we were a small business owner. I know how much it means to have support from your business. and support for United Way. And thanks to the United Way, you redid everything, because just like you, Peter, I was with Kmart for 19 years and I was in management. So we did have a relationship with United Way during that. So you learned all the different things that the United Way did. And then I went through the leadership class, and I was part of the United Way when they vet throughout the year. At the end of the year, when they choose the different organizations that get the money from the United Way, what ends up happening is people don't understand there's a process and there's a group of people that go through the whole vetting. And I know that the Charlotte County has appreciated it so much that the money that they used to take care of, the United Way handles now, correct, Angie?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that means there's a lot of trust in the Charlotte County's United Way here. And I just wanted to mention that to the audience, that to really look at your United Way, the seasons of giving, there's a lot of givers within our community. And Peter, you are a prime example of somebody that gives back to the community over the years. It's not just today. You started when you were with Johnson & Johnson, working your way up and seeing what an impact you could make by doing that and sharing, seasons of sharing, to share with those that are less fortunate. No, there's a lot of different ways to share too, correct, Angie?
Yes, so I think that what's nice is that with this fund that's been set up, the matching fund, we definitely know that the businesses, there are businesses that will want to contribute to this. And a couple of things that Peter and I had talked about, as well as with some members of our board, a committee where we convened to talk about that. Number one, we wanted to make sure that the Charlotte, if they worked in Charlotte County, that that this applied to them, that it wasn't just employers that donated that were going to have eligible employees, because for Peter, that was really important that this was something that was available to the community. Now, how we're able to help people is as good as the fund. So that's the key piece here is we're in the fundraising component of it, and we're just beginning the conversations. And so it's funny because the folks in our community that know who we are, there are large businesses that when I say we, meaning the United Way of Charlotte County, have a relationship with us. Absolutely, we will have those relationships. There are businesses outside of Charlotte County that are also possible to support this. You don't have to be a Charlotte County business. We are working very closely with United Way Florida, local United Ways, as well as United Way Worldwide, and they have corporate businesses that are also looking for how they can help. And a lot of conversations with United Way Worldwide around the complexities of how do you rebuild a community back. And the uniqueness of Charlotte County is really important. And Peter, you and I've talked a little bit about this, about the structure of businesses in Charlotte County. We don't have a lot of large business. We have a lot of medium-sized business and small business. And so meeting with the business partners, being a part of that long-term recovery with the businesses in Charlotte County, that'll be part of this, hearing from them, also communicating that message back up through the United Way network. But a key part of this is going to be making sure that the employees that are serving the community are built back up. And so as an example, in order for people to go back to work, the child care providers have to be able to go back to work, people who have children. And so the people who have children, they need to have somewhere for their children to go. There were about somewhere between 8 and 11 child care facilities that were decimated from Charlotte County, as well as the employees that worked at those facilities. And so we were already in a shortage and a soon, an increase in shortage with childcare providers, but also capacity for space. And then we had lost several of our after school programming during this. We were already in a shortage. And so the issue here is that in order for people to go back to work, they have to have a safe place for their children. So then, okay, let's assume we have a safe place for the children. In order to go back to work, you have the stressors and the mental health that's involved with building back their home, and some couples that the wife is not working because she's having to tend to the issues. And so now she's got a loss of income. So the workforce needs to be there in order to build the community back. So you've got the workforce that's supporting, the entire industry. If we just take out the hospitality industry, and we just talk about building back the community, making sure that workforce as well as the healthcare, and then you take the healthcare component of making sure that the workforce for the healthcare, so that the people that need services, and then you have the retired folks coming back from up north, and they want and certainly deserve for their homes to be built back, but you have to have a strong building industry, and many of those people have been devastated by. So it's totally cyclical. And so as a community, we've got to think about all the way down, how do we support families that are working so that then they can support the community of seniors that we have as well. Peter, what kind of when I talk about all that relative to your passion with this, where are you at with all that?
Well, that is a chain of related issues that do accomplish, if we're successful, the goal of getting businesses healthy again, equipped with staff, so that they in turn can service all the people who live in our region. And restaurants, for example, I talked to the owner of a fabulous long time restaurant yesterday here in Boca Grande, and he's got two challenges. He's cleaning up some of the damage, but then he's got to get staff to open.
Mm-hmm.
And if that place isn't open, then my wife, who loves lunch there, will be very unhappy. And so it's very important to begin to piece back people's lives by returning to them some of the familiar experiences they have that makes life worth living,
Mm-hmm.
as well as some of the resources they have that allows them to earn an income, as your example mentioned. Go ahead.
Okay, I have a question for both of you, because I'm sure our audience is thinking about this. Okay, I'm a business and I want to participate and I want to help my employees, and it's a matching fund. How does this work? How do I apply exactly? Because I was a small business owner, and maybe I do have funds set aside for this cush, but sometimes when you're a small business, you may not have that little extra. How does this work? How can you help? And, how do you put all the pieces together on my end as a business owner?
It's a good question, and definitely want to make sure we get that clear. So right now we're in the donation fundraising component of this. On the screen, you can see where you can donate, because that's the first piece. We have the match, and then you can go to unitedwayccfl.org/United at Work, or call 941-627-3539. Raising the funds is absolutely key. And so people can share these resources for where to go to donate. Once the donations come in, we are in Tangent working around Very similar guidelines to season of sharing. So there will be guidelines that we follow for helping businesses. We will very similarly refer them to case management to apply for funding, get assistance, working with the businesses to determine which employees need this, then hand-holding, getting them to the right place where they can get the help. All of this has to be in conjunction with the disaster recovery that's taking place through emergency management, through the community organizations active in disaster, which is the COAD, all of the business recovery. So working, fortunately, Kay Tracy, who's with the Economic Development Office, is on our board, and then certainly partnering with the chambers. So raising the dollars, and then as employees have needs that are unmet, because we have to make sure that we're doing our due diligence, similar to how we do the season of sharing funds, for what are those unmet needs. So then it actually will be very similar to that. So we raise the dollars. The dollars are as good as the pool of funds that we have. So we have to raise the funds in order to have funds to disseminate. And then there will be a moment where we announce that we're able to administer those funds. And then we will begin administering those funds similarly to how we do season of sharing. And that's building up the relationship with the businesses to let them know that that's an opportunity at this point.
Okay, so I, as a business, do not have to match that fund. It's matching funds from everybody donating to it. Is that how that's working? Because I was unclear on that before.
And I think that that is a piece that we've definitely gotten questions about. So, and that was important to Peter, is that you don't have to be a contributing, because we know that there's medium and small size businesses that can't contribute. That's why it's so important for businesses who can.
Yeah.
For businesses who can, this is where you can feel really good that you're giving back to your community so that your community can thrive.
And
Does that help?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Let me chime in here and amplify or bring in maybe a little different angle. So the way I think about it is, what's going to motivate a employer to, let's talk about contributions first, because there's two kinds, where we're going to have contributing employers who are participating, and then we'll have other employees who, for whatever reason, can't contribute, but they want to do what they can for their employees. So for the contributing employees, we've actually written a letter that Angie's put in her packet that expresses Elsa and my view as to why we're doing this, but why we'd like them to join us in helping to fund this effort. And one of the things that is important for this effort is to get a feel for what's the level of need amongst your employee base. And for an employer to go and do that requires the employee to trust them with personal information. And the concept here is that the employer serves a vital role in acquainting their employees with this potential new resource to provide them assistance. But they're not asking the employee to go through the employer with the request for assistance. That can go to an independent third party. So you have a dual benefit for the employer. Number one, they don't have to get into the lives of their employees, and secondly, they don't have to be the ones to adjudicate who gets what relief and who doesn't. So this is taken off their hand, yet they've provided a very valuable service to their employees. They've sent the signal that they care, that those employees are very valuable to them. They want to support them in their work life, and there's a mechanism that that hopefully, if they participated in the United Way in the past, they trust. So to us, that was an important factor. Now, do we have a crystal ball and know how many employers will want to answer the call? And do something for the good of all employees in the region. And these are not funds that are, if I'm an employer and I contribute, the funds only go to my employees. We didn't want to get into that situation. So this is more of a corporate social responsibility, as the jargon goes in the business world, that they have a chance, just as if they were contributing to the United Way. The employers have a chance to do something socially responsible, but yet strikes to the very heart of what that makes them success, which is motivated, available, and enabled employees.
Well, I want to put up on the screen some comments we're getting, because we do have a lot of people watching us right now on social media. Plus, we're airing on WKDW Radio on kdwradio.com. This is from the Charlotte County Sheriff's Department. This is an awesome opportunity. Thank you so much to the Elsa and Peter Soderberg Foundation and United Way of Charlotte County. And Lynn Dorler, that's with the Boys and Girls Club. Thank you, Elsa and Peter. Hello. He was in my leadership class.
And Peter knows Lynn too.
Yeah, who doesn't know Lynn? Kaylee Ritchie Miller. Thank you, Kaylee. And I know these people are familiar to people, absolutely wonderful folks from Lou Hastings. And Lou used to be in charge of the chamber out on Boca Grande a few years back. Yes. And then Justin, he says hi to me, but he actually runs When All Else Fails up in Northport. And then another one thing, thank you for your wonderful support. So anybody out there that is listening or watching this, if you put a comment in anything, Peter, Angie, myself are able to see those comments. I can bring them up if you have any question. This is a time to do it. We'll be able to have them answer it for you. So I'm glad that you are really letting us know, because I was real confused by the press release on it, because the way the press release read to me, and this is Marie, reading the press release, and I go, so I, as an employer, and I may be devastated right now and trying to recover to get my employees to get help, I can donate, and then you'll match the money. That is how my brain works.
You prepare all these communications, and you're like, I know that this is going to make sense, and then we've been tweaking our message all week, because we're like, okay, this did not come across, because it's a confusing concept, admittedly. And so what's been great, though, is people have had questions about it. They have called or emailed and said, can you call me? And ended up with amazing conversations around, okay, well, this may not be the exact thing for you, but these are some other options, but then also you can still share it out. So one of the other items, when we were talking about what a success looked like, Peter, we were talking, and it was that it would be a relationship building experience with the businesses, and help advocate what we want to be for the United Way. Our mission is mobilizing the power of the community. That's the first part, which is very action oriented. And so we want to be, as much as we can in the middle of this disaster, be singularly focused on what can the United Way do. And we do feel like, certainly because with our board retreat, we were already in that place a month before the storm, that this is a place for us to be. Now, I want to make sure that we get to talk a little bit about, we know that there's an entire community that's responding. And so we are one piece of a puzzle. And I've not been in, I'm sorry, let me back up. I was in Hurricane Charlie. I had just moved here, but I was a resident and was very confused. I'd been here 2 weeks. So I was truly a resident experiencing Charlie, and then Francis, Ivan, and Jean. But I wasn't a community member or a partner. So really truly understanding kind of how does a community response, and then of course being a United Way. I mean, it's, you learn. I've been very fortunate that the United Ways that I partner with, each of the United Ways in Florida as well as worldwide, have been tremendous at providing support as well as educating about what our role as a United Way is. But we fit within the context of what you would call the COAD, which is the Community Organizations Active in Disaster. When COVID hit, we were very involved in that. We led the Youth and Education Task Force for the COVID response. And then we are identifying where we will be in that COAD response, certainly as it relates to business. Being a United Way, navigating resources, administering season of sharing, those kinds of things. But there's definitely other funds that are out there. And so that can be confusing. And so we know that the COAD, the Community Organizations Active in Disaster, has a fund, and that's administered by the Charlotte Community Foundation. And that's fantastic. The United Way, we respond with a fund as well. And then we have many nonprofits. All are having opportunities to donate to their causes, including the Homeless Coalition. And I know that Lynn Doyler's having his events. So it's important that for us that donors donate where they feel that connection, and know that we're here as a community to support this rebuilding. And it's important that from a collaboration perspective, that everyone knows what they're doing, and we do it. And so we're going to stay in that place of where the United Way has been. But I know people also have questions about, where do they go to get their resources? And so I would say, when in doubt, charlottecountyfl.gov/Ian. In fact, every morning, if you wanted to just go right there. Now, there's also phone numbers to call, and that website has information on it. There's also, if people, because I know that there's still a connection issue with internet, right? So a lot of people can't get on the internet. The libraries are open. The most important thing that people can be doing is applying for FEMA. So the number one guidance is to apply for FEMA, 1-800-621-3362. There are other resources, including DSNAP, the Disaster Recovery Centers, business owners. So if you're a business, because we're talking about businesses today, you can call 941-764-4941. And the Emergency Operations Call Center, 941-833-4000. For the phone numbers, folks who can't get through on the website.
Angie, let me jump in here, and that one of our concerns was, what does the experience look like for a person who calls the United Way? And so we talked about the resources that Angie has to handle those people, and we learned that they have a network of case managers who also handle during the season of giving. They handle individual cases, and we've said to Angie, use some of our funds to supplement that staff. So I think you bringing on a full-time case manager to assist you on this campaign, because that's critical. The experience has to be a positive one for anybody dialing the United at Work number.
And kudos to the case managers in the community. So the way that Season of Sharing works, and obviously using a similar model with this, i.e. a different fund that's available to the folks who are working in the community. There are case managers throughout the community that meet one-on-one with folks. And so that might be the Homeless Coalition, certainly Human Services, St. Vincent de Paul's, Inglewood Helping Hands, Deep Creek Community Church. So there's an enormous amount of case managers in the community that meet with folks. And then we hired, we have a case manager here who manages our season of sharing currently, but we know that with the entire disaster response, as well as the supportive funds, that we as a United Way need to provide an excellent experience. So that's where we know that we've got to be able to provide that case management assistance, and certainly thankful for that with the foundation. And so that part of it is going to be absolutely essential, in that we provide a good experience. And so right now it's kind of ramping up and making sure that we have all of those key things in place.
Yeah, and when you think about the proposition to employers who are going to hopefully join us in this, to have their employees go to a trusted, a portal, a trusted case manager, and get professional assistance to help sort out where they should go. Do they get funds directly from this pool of money, or should they go to somebody specializing in their needs? This ecosystem of service exists in Charlotte County, and as I say, we at our church support six of these implementing agencies, and we know how they work, and they do a tremendous job. So we want to get people into the right place, but we also want some money to help them to just survive. This fund isn't going to allow them to rebuild their house, but it's going to allow them some important subsistence to get back on their feet.
And Marie, I know we're short on time. I want to make sure, are there some pieces that we've missed? I want to make sure that folks know that this fund is as good as the donations that come in. And so it can be from a business outside of Charlotte County. It can be any business. It can be individuals. It can be large gifts. It can be small gifts.
Okay. And what's the smallest gift? Like $5?
Sure.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Just to let people know in perspective, because one of the things is it only takes $1 that it gets matched to $1. And working your way up. And because, I've done a lot of this where I've done fundraising for different organizations. I've sat on boards. I still sit on boards for nonprofits. However, I was also a small business owner, and I said that, and I also worked for a large corporation. So I know, all the different ends of it. And I know how important it is that you do give. And one of the things that I noticed during COVID, and I don't know if you're seeing it, people reevaluated what they were doing with their time and where their money was going. And I don't know if that's what you're seeing still, if you're seeing a different change in that. And I think that's something that needs to be addressed too, that because so many people are concerned, especially with inflation rates going up and when you're going to go to rebuild, and I know I'm kind of getting off topic here, but know that every dollar that you're giving to United Way is being very well looked at and looked after. And I know that personally because I was their volunteer of the year in 2020.
I know you were.
Yeah.
One of our best champions ever.
Oh, I wouldn't go that crazy there.
Of course, we have a lot, and we're so thankful.
Yeah.
We really couldn't be.
Angie, one thing I want to add is you said every dollar will be matched. One of our conditions with Angie and the United Way is there will be no administrative fee taken
That's good to know.
any of these donations. So it will all flow to benefit the people who need it the most.
So 100% of every donation that is given is going to be matched, and none of it's going through administration. And I'm so glad that you said that, Peter, because when I look at donating my money, I look at that. I do, because to me it's so I don't want all the money going to the administration or handling the things, because I'm a serial volunteer. And people have tried to pay me to do some of the things that I did, and I said I can't. That isn't in my DNA to take money for things that I'm trying to give back to people. In fact, I'm the Giving Tuesday Southwest Florida chair, and I was supposed to be at the Giving Tuesday conference that they were doing, the mini one up in Charlotte, North Carolina, the day the hurricane hit, and I couldn't go because of different reasons and that. But they reached out to me after the hurricane, and they said, "How are you doing? What are your plans?" And I said, "We have no plans. Everything went out the window, and we're surviving right now." So that is the last thing people are going to be thinking about, is that what we need to do is rebuild within our community.
And so some parting thoughts. Every dollar in is $2 out that goes out to impact our community, to get our community back up and running. So every dollar in is $2 out.
So let me say this. I will be donating to this fund.
Well, we appreciate you so much. And so we want to make sure everybody knows where to go, right? So 941-627-3539, because we know some people can't donate online. And then United Way, ccfl.org/United at Work. And when in doubt, you can go to unitedwayccfl.org.
Right, exactly. And to do that, Peter, any last thoughts about things? And then we'll talk off air.
Well, I'll say it's been wonderful working with Angie. We actually met with a number of her board members, and they really filled us with confidence that we'd pick the right group. Some of them were key employers, key in economic development. So we feel we have a great organization, and we feel like the promise of assistance with proper oversight and efficiency is going to be fulfilled. And I'll say one final thing is we are advancing as soon as Angie tells us where to send the money. We are advancing some money to get this started, because we're anxious to see it start ASAP.
Well, I am anxious to see what happens here, because I think it's going to make a terrific impact within the community here in Charlotte County. And to all of our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in today and listening to this very important message from the United Way of Charlotte County, and to the philanthropist, Peter Soderberg. And you too can be a philanthropist.
And Elsa Soderberg. Don't forget
and
about
Elsa.
her.
Oh, Elsa. And
Elsa and Peter.
And Elsa is like in Frozen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
She's not frozen, though.
No, she's not frozen, although today we're frozen.
Thank you, Peter, for joining us today.
Right.
Okay.
And I just read
the opportunity.
And thank you to the audience for listening to us on WKDW 97.5 FM Real Community Radio, and to Angie Matheson from the United Way, Executive Director, and Peter Soderberg, who is a philanthropist, but he's also a board member and a great person. So have a great day.
Thank you.
See you all again next week on